Okay.
Okay, today we're going to be working with the miter saw. This is a sliding compound miter saw. Okay, it is not a chop saw, it is a miter saw. Okay, this is how it should be when you come out to class. This is how it should look, right, like this. To unlock it, you press down on the handle and pull out on the little peg right there, and then it's up, ready to use. Now, one thing about this, last hour my class was still working when the bell rang, so we did not get to clean up. I'll show you how to clean this up later on. But right now I just want to talk about how to use it. How many of you in here have used or been in Mr. O'Neill's class and used the miter saw? Okay, good. Good. I'm not going to have too much of a problem. To move this saw, simply lift up on the handle, the lock handle, push down on the button, and you can slide it around to the various degrees that you're going to be cutting with. Now, predominantly in here, we're going to be using a 90 degree, 45 degree, and a 22.5 degree. Can anybody tell me what the 22.5 degree, why you would use that degree? What's that? Okay, it's putting it at an angle, but okay. When you have a 90 degree angle, this is called butt joining together. You're joining the butts together. Okay, when you have a 45 degree angle, that's a mitered angle, and it's cut at a 45. It still gives you the 90 degree, like on a picture frame. Okay, the 22.5 is used a lot because in construction, octagons are used quite a bit. So that's why they have the 22.5. If you take 8 boards, cut them at 22.5, you put them together, you'll have an octagon. It's an 8-sided box. Okay, so that's why we use that. This is a sliding miter, which you guys will get into later, but it slides out to where you can cut, let's see, I think it's 11.5 inches that you can cut and then push back. We're not going to be using the slider part at the start, but we probably will as we get on into it. The table sitting down here on the bottom is where the wood needs to rest onto. On both sides of this miter saw, there's a little hand with a circle and a red dash going through it. That means this is a no hands area. Okay? DeWalt says that you should keep your hands 8 inches away from the blade. OSHA says 6 inches away. Okay? What I'm going to do is simply tell you, we've got 2 little V's right here. If you hook your thumb underneath the wood and keep your thumb underneath and not any closer than what this plate right here is, you're going to be safe. That's a little more than 6 inches, a little bit less than 8 inches. So when you grab a hold of a board to cut it, you want your thumb underneath it. You do not want your thumb up on the side. Okay? If something would happen that you would have to slip or something, your hand would go right into the blade. If you have your thumb up underneath it, your thumb is going to stop you, and you can't get, you can't reach it. I can't reach. My fingers are short enough that I can't reach in there, and I don't think anybody else's fingers are long enough, if they have their thumb down there, that they could reach the blade. Okay, so that's just, it's kind of one of those things where, you do the same thing over and over and over again when you shoot a free throw. You don't shoot it right-handed and then left-handed and do all this dancing around and shoot. You stand, you do the same thing over and over and over again when you shoot a free throw. That's what I want here. I want your thumb underneath, right in this area. Okay? Now, one of the other things that you need to be aware of on the back plate here. Okay? Your wood should be pushed back up against the fence, and it should definitely, if you're cutting on this side, it needs to touch the fence here. If you're cutting a long board and you've push it up to the fence and it's touching out here and touching here, but not touching in here, you need to turn the board over so that the bow is out, and so it's touching here. If you have the bow coming in other words, it's touching here and here, but not here, or not on these, right in this area, when you start to cut, you're going to get about 3/4 of the way through, and this board is going to start to push back and go to the fence, and it'll pinch the blade. And then what happens is it starts jumping around and throwing that board all over the place. Okay? I had an instructor tell me one time, a couple, 3 years ago, he said these DeWalt miter boxes, if you would take this out and put it on a car, the same revolutions in here, you'd be traveling about 78 miles an hour. Okay? So it's not something that's going to be slow. It puts some speed to it. Some power. Okay. This particular machine are all miter boxes. I've not seen one that isn't this way. It's not a right-handed saw and it's not a left-handed saw. If I want to cut on this side, this is how I would do it. Notice I'm not standing away from it. I'm not leaning on it. I'm not, being lazy and, just putting my hand down onto it and hold myself up. I'm standing with a normal stance. My feet are approximately my shoulder width apart. And I'm not leaning in, I'm not leaning out. I'm standing straight up. And when I cut straight down. If I'm on the other side, my hands change. Now my right hand is on the motor, or on the switch. My left hand is down here. At no time do you want to stand in front of this blade. You need to stand to one side or the other. Okay? So that if something would happen, it would go right past your hip, not into you. So don't stand here. Get off to the side. This hand, elbow, and shoulder should be in a straight line. Okay? Going on this side, same thing. For me, I'm more comfortable cutting this way. But there's times where I have to cut here. So in this project, in our projects, sometimes I'm going to request you to cut on your less dominant side. And you just need to get used to that. If you're cutting a big long board and this is the only way you can get it in, you're going to have to know how to cut from that side. At no time do you cross your hands. This right here is very dangerous. Over here would be very dangerous. Okay? So don't cross your hands. Keep your hands straight in line. Okay? Now, what I do if I'm cutting a line off, let's say, it's not very straight, but say I want to cut this line off. Okay, this part down here is the part that I want to keep, so I call that my product side. This part over here is the part that I don't want to keep, I want to throw it away. That would be my drop side. Okay? When you cut, you always want to cut on the drop side of your line. If you cut on the product side, your product just became a 16th inch short. And on the projects that you're going to be working on, that 16th of an inch will make a big difference. Okay? So make sure that when you're cutting, you bring the saw blade down and you line up where you're going to be cutting so that the saw blade is cutting on the drop side. Okay? Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this one. Feet are approximately shoulder width apart. I'm just relaxed here. My thumb is underneath the board. I want you to cut all the way down and hit the bumpers. I want you hitting those bumpers, and I want the miter box to stay on that bumper. I don't want you to hit it and then start coming back up. I want you to hit it, shut off the machine, wait until the blade stops. You don't need to wait until the shop vac stops, because it's going to go for 5 extra seconds, just to kind of clean things out a little bit. But anyway, when you cut, I want you cutting all the way down, hit the bumper, let off of the trigger, wait till the blade stops before you bring it up. I know that that's a long, it takes a little bit of time, but in this class, you got people all the way around you, and it would be very easy for a piece of wood, as you bring it back up, it'd be very easy for that piece of wood to get jammed, turned, or twisted, and then it goes flinging out. This blade will create a vacuum. So if you cut off little pieces off of it, it's going to want to pull it into the blade. And when you're cutting here, you'll see some of them. You guys, you'll see it where it actually moves the part that you're dropping off. Okay? And if you would have brought the blade up, it would have went out. 2-3 years ago, we was on the other side, and I had a student who was not doing what I asked him to do, and he went down, he didn't even shut it off. He brought the saw blade right back up without even shutting it off. And I heard it ping. It means it hit back in here, and then it shot out. We had the saws just on the other side of this wall. It shot across and hit the other wall over there. Not on the sheetrock side, but on the metal side, and it left a dent in the metal. So it's flat moving. You're not going to get out of the road of it. You're just going to see a blur, and it's going to go. So my thought process here is to stop it before it even starts. So take it down to the bumper, you let off of the trigger, you hold it there until you see the blade come to a complete stop. Then you let it back up. Okay? That's the way I want it done in here. That's the way I'm going to be grading you. So when you're at your home, you're doing your own thing in the yard or in the garage or whatever, your own workshop, that's your business. But in here, your grade will be, when it stops, then let it up. Okay? Now let's talk about clothing for a little bit. One thing when you come into this shop, no open-toed shoes. I had a student earlier towards, I don't know, September, October. He came in with sandals with socks on. He said, my toes are covered. I said, no. Not good. I'm not going to go there. You need to have either tennis shoes on or boots, something that is actually covering your toes. Okay? That's just common sense safety. Second of all, come here please. Okay, turn around. Now, I'm in front of you, so kind of bend over just a little bit. Okay, see what happens here with these? These are pretty light. I told you that blade causes a vacuum. If you lean over and those things happen to swing, they will get caught in there, and you will not get them. It'll pull you down pretty fast. So on the hoodies, those of you that are wearing things, necklaces, the ties, whatever, get them tucked inside. If they do not stay inside, if yours are so short and it just won't stay in there, I'm not going to say, well, yours don't stay in so you don't have to do that. No. If you can't get them to stay in, if you can't get them to, not be out and dangling around, you either go change, get something else on, or you're out of the shop. Or at least you're not working on the tools. Okay? If you have loose-fitting clothes, you might want to tuck your shirts in or whatever. Because if they're out here blowing away and it gets caught in there, you'll be hurt. covered the shoes, covered the dangly's hair. If you have long hair, you might want to pull it back. I think it was just last year, I had a girl that had long hair. She didn't have very much of it get pulled out, but it did get wrapped up in here. And she said she didn't even feel it gone. It was that fast. When we pulled the blade off, you could see probably about 20 or 30 strands of hair that pulled off of it. So don't take precautions. This these rules and regulations, stuff that I'm telling you about out here, they're not put out here for the fun of it. Put out here so that you will be safe. One thing I have not had the opportunity to do, and I don't want the opportunity, is I've never had to call a parent and say, hey, your son or daughter is on their way to the hospital, missing a finger, missing this or whatever, because somebody else was goofing off, or they were goofing off. Okay? So I will stop that stuff right up front. And if you're in the attitude of, you're just out here for the fun of it, you'll be in my classroom. You won't be out here. Because I care about everybody's safety in here. If that's not your bag, you best stay out of here. I won't go there. Okay, you can shut that off.